London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof Coffee.
Why is Bitcoin something you talk about?
Bitcoin is fun.
It is fun as hell, and we've had Max Kaiser on here. We've had a lot of people talking about Bitcoin. I love to talk about it, but why is it such a big part of the Pirate Party?
Well, we're not talking about Bitcoin. Pirate Party is not having Bitcoin as part of its platform directly,
right.
But you can see a lot of overlap between
Yes.
Pirate Party enthusiasts and Bitcoin enthusiasts. Disclosure, I have a rather large Bitcoin position. I invested all my savings in it early 2011.
You did?
Yes,
you
I
were
did.
one of those guys.
I was one of those guys.
Did you just take the leap one day and you're like, this is going to happen? And
Yeah, I sort of looked at it, and I mean, it was so many new concepts at the time. So, okay, there's no central bank. What do you mean it's just math? What do you mean it's a transaction system? Do you mean I can actually transfer a value of a cup of coffee to a friend in India on a Sunday and they see it immediately? What do you mean the government can't seize the money? Okay, this is getting interesting. What if we put this together? And I put it together in my head and thought about it for the better part of a week, and then went, wow, this is going to hit. I'm going to take all my savings and put it into this.
how long did it take you to buy those Bitcoins? Like weeks to get your savings into that? Because it's hard to buy a lot of Bitcoins.
That's the problem, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you have this
illiquid instrument.
you have this very much so. I mean, you have this legacy banking system, and you need to transfer money to an exchange in Slovenia or one in Japan to actually buy the Bitcoin. But once you have them, I mean, you have such a, like I said, the first time I had the Bitcoins in hand, I bought a little just to test it out. And I sent the value of a cup of coffee to a friend in India on a Sunday, and they saw the money instantly. They didn't see who it came from. They just saw the money. I knew I had sent it. So just seeing what didn't happen, I mean, I did not log on to a bank of any kind. I did not pay an international transfer fee. In fact, I didn't pay any kind of fee.
Yeah.
There were no bank holidays involved. There was no delay at all, actually. No government had the ability to seize the money.
No money laundering
because they
investigations?
couldn't see it in the first place.
Right.
So
No money laundering investigations, none of that.
right.
Right.
And you have micropayments that are enabled for the first time ever, because this is going to. What's interesting here is that in an economy, today you essentially have 4 layers of players. At the top, you have the government, which works in collaboration with a second layer, which are the banks, to collect money and run the government. They collect money with the help of the banks to fund the government and hand out social security, fund the military, police, and various services in society. Beneath that, you have the third layer, who are corporations that are essentially just engines in the economy, and then you have the fourth layer, which are people who do the actual work. But what's interesting with Bitcoin is that corporations who are dependent largely on credit card companies today see a means to cut them out of the loop. And credit card companies typically take between 2 and 4% of every transaction. Every transaction.
Yeah, and sometimes a minimum fee, right?
Right. There's a minimum fee, and then there's a percentage on top of that. So,
which to the average person doesn't sound like a lot. But
Right,
if you
but
told that to a corporation, I mean, that's the profit margin of Tesco. I mean, like,
exactly,
that's a lot of money.
exactly. So when you're looking at a corporation that has a profit margin of between 3 and 5%, which is typical, and ask an executive, would you like to double your profit margin, sir? You'd kick out because they didn't believe you even had a believable proposition. But once you realize that this payment system is going to double the profit margin of corporations, they're going to jump at it. So initially, it'll be a competitive advantage for those who only deal in Bitcoin.
So the corporations will want the Bitcoin,
The corporations will absolutely want the Bitcoin, because it allows them to split this gain in profit margin between them and the customer.
Right.
And that means the customers, us, can get a lot of expensive stuff for lower prices. So we will flock to the corporations dealing only in Bitcoin.
Right.
Because they can get off lower prices. And so the competitive advantage will gradually phase out credit cards all over the market. And at that point, the banks are out of the loop.
London Real, sponsored by Bulletproof Coffee.